The Florida Panthers stuck to their identity going from Game 3 to Game 4, made some lineup changes, continued rolling with their power play, and it paid off. And now we have a best of 3 series.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Florida Panthers podcast, your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12, follow the show account on X and Instagram at @LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's $150 with any $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So the Florida Panthers tied this series at 2 from Amerant Bank Arena last night with another great crowd there in Sunrise, where the Florida Panthers, the first 20 minutes were not like the previous game, where it took a little bit to get them going. The second line was the one who set the tone, trailed early, but the Panthers, they get in on the score sheet 3 seconds after the power play and scored 2 more power play goals, one of them being in overtime, and tilted the ice once again in their favor and really kept the New York Rangers pinned in their zone. It was similar to Game 3, except without the defensive breakdowns. But it is a Winans Wednesday here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Jacob Winans is back here to help me break down this 3-2 overtime win for the Florida Panthers over the New York Rangers, where now the series is tied at 2, and we have a best of 3 going back to Madison Square Garden for Game 5 on Thursday night. Jacob, welcome to the show, my friend.
Having me. It's always a good occasion when we get to recap a win, but this one's extra sweet because we're very fortunate. This is a fun time of year, and 2 really, really evenly matched teams. I feel like we all thought in some way, shape, or form we would end up with a close series. It doesn't get any closer than 2-2 headed back to MSG. That is a really, really tough building to play in, and it's gonna be a fun challenge. But this is awesome. This is what you watch the sport for. This is what the guys play for. This is everything you want this time of year. It's super, super exciting right now.
Yeah, very, very exciting for sure, because, you really look at how the last 2 games went for the Florida Panthers. Yeah, you're getting the last change. Yeah, you make some lineup changes with bringing Steven Lawrence and Kyle Okposo in. And yeah, most of the reason why the Panthers lost Game 3 was mostly because of some of defensive breakdowns. Kulikov and OEL didn't have the best of games in Game 3, but bounced back big time in this one. But it was all about, even when you got those shots on net on Igor, it was about getting those timely goals for them. In Game 3, everything's all reset to 0-0 once you come back in those. But the Panthers, they started off this one, trailing at first in this game. One on the power play by Vincent Trocheck. They finally got their power play going for the New York Rangers. But the Panthers, for this one, all 3 of their goals were somewhat around the power play. You see 2 power play goals statistically for them, but the Bennett goal, the real one that set the tone 3 seconds after. You're generating speed up, and it's funny because that power play specifically was not the best looking one for them too. And then they get that right at the end, just as it ends too. And for the Panthers too, Sergei Bobrovsky setting the tone too. it could have easily been 2-0 if that one timer by Mika Zibanejad doesn't go up above his shoulder and up the crossbar too. So even with the Panthers dominating the last 40 minutes and even the 41, excuse me, because they got that winner in overtime. I mean, weathering storms for them. I mean, it took a little bit for the Barkov line to get going, but once they were going, they were going. I mean, I'm for them, and for the Panthers. I mean, not allowing Chris Kreider to get a single shot on goal once again. I mean, he grabbed the mouthpiece out of Kachuk's mouth and threw it in the stands too. So a funny moment in that game, but just the Panthers just continuing once again the same theme as game 3, keeping the Rangers on their heels.
Yeah, and the first period, the Panthers looked somewhat tight, somewhat nervous, which is understandable. And in a period like that, when you can kind of feel your season's on the line, you really want to be able to rely on your goalie to keep you in it until you get your legs under you. The Panthers have a ton of playoff experience, which is crazy to say, given how little they had until the past couple of years. But this is a battle-tested team. But even the most battle-tested team can be nervous, can be jittery, tight going into a game like that. In the first period, the Panthers were definitely not at their best, weren't at their worst. It wasn't that they were playing poorly. It was just they were thinking too much, not playing as free, not making the quick decisions all the time. I feel like they did a good job of snapping out of that, but you have to credit Bob for keeping them in the game in that first period, because it could have easily gotten out of hand with that Zibanejad goal. Now, a 2-goal deficit with 40 minutes to play is not out of hand, but it in a series where you're down 2-1 and facing the possibility of going on the road down 3-1, going down 2-0 at home is definitely that's a massive hole to dig your way out of. And Bob kept them in the game and didn't allow that to happen. So he gets all the credit for that first period. And then from the second period on, the Panthers found their game. They started to play loose. They started to play free. They started to play with speed, less thinking, and they started to just take some shots. You gotta shoot, generate traffic in front of Igor. They started to do that in the second period. The Sam Bennett goal is a great example of that. It wasn't pretty. You're not going to beat him clean most of the time this time of year. It's a wild bounce. It's jamming out a loose puck in front of the net and winning that battle. Those are the type of goals you have to score this time of year. Sam Bennett's one of the best at it. That was a huge one. And then the Carter Verhaeghe goal is another one that takes a couple weird bounces. It ends up in the air. You got to bat it out of the air. It's not. Again, you're not beating them clean. It's going to take some weird stuff. It's going to take some lucky bounces, and you got to capitalize when you get those chances, because the Rangers certainly have in this series. So I thought the way they got their legs under them in the second period was fantastic. And the top 6 for the Panthers, that was the most dominant I think I've seen Barkov look outside of maybe game 3 or game 2 of the Boston series. That was a special performance from Barkov. Just the zone time, the complete elimination of Mika Zibanejad that entire game, matching up with Trocheck, winning a lot of those draws. But Trocheck is a great defensive center. He doesn't get enough credit for it these days, but he's a fantastic defensive center. And Barkov, no one on that roster can take the puck away from him. He's playing out of his mind right now. So he gets a ton of credit for driving play and sort of leading that comeback charge. But I thought from the second period on, the Panthers really had control of the game. They dominated the Rangers in every facet. The only reason it ends up going to overtime is simply Igor. And we're very fortunate we got a power play goal past him early, because who knows how long it could have been before you beat him again, if not.
Yeah, and the Rangers were getting that puck quickly out of their zone for the Panthers to not establish their check too. That's another thing when it comes to that. But I mean, for them, I mean, just getting it through speed, and also Bob, even though he touched the puck behind the trapezoid right before that rush up from Forsling, That's a point and a secondary assist for him. So he has more points than Mika Zibanejad does in the series too. So that's another thing for that. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2. We're going to discuss more about our 3 stars of the game and more of how the other pieces in for the Florida Panthers elevated their game too in this one. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and it's winner take all season in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you that opportunity to bring home some big wins with FanDuel. So right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Segment number 2 here on this Wednesday, May 29th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday. Here recapping a 3-2 Panthers overtime win over the New York Rangers in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Final, where now this series is tied at 2. And Jacob, three stars of the game, first of all, for them. For me, it's the guys who came clutch for the Panthers. So Sam Reinhart is #1 for me, getting that overtime winner. Now it's 3 power play goals in the last 2 games after not getting on the power play since round 1. Barkov is another, gets 2 assists on the night, but he was very strong towards the last 40 minutes, especially. And also the third one for me, Carter Verhaeghe too. He's consistently strong on pucks, now moving up on that line too for the Panthers, and just knowing the familiarity, and Paul Maurice putting everything together too. And honorable mention for the Panthers. I mean, Vladimir Tarasenko didn't really finish much on this one. He got 5 shots on goal, but we're starting to see him possibly getting more opportunities, especially now that he's getting the matchups for bottom 6 guys. I know he doesn't generate. I know he doesn't really generate much outside of Barkov, but got to be hella impressed. And also Kyle Okposo, big opportunity where 3 Rangers defenders on him and going through and getting it to the backhand. Maybe could have lifted it more, but still, that's a little bit of a hard shot to get off for him too. So a little bit of an honorable mention for Kyle Okposo getting into the lineup and not really missing a beat there too. So your 3 stars, my friend.
Yeah. This may surprise you, but I'm going to give Sam Bennett an honorable mention, even though he did score the goal that got him going. And I would also point out that he set the tone physically early with a big hit on Roslovic, which kind of got the building going very early in the game. Whenever you start the game with a big hit or a big play like that, it kind of just loosens everything up, and you can just go play hockey, and people think less. So I think Sam Bennett had a huge impact. Another honorable mention for me, we've given him a lot of we've talked about him a lot here and there with some rough performances playing against elite talents. But Aaron Ekblad had a very good game defensively.
Yes.
And it doesn't get enough credit. Oftentimes with defensemen, you only talk about them when they're doing poorly. But when they're doing their best work, you don't hear anything about it, because that's ideally what you want as a D-man, is to not have to be talked about. But Aaron Ekblad definitely had a bounce back game. He was fantastic. And the results speak for themselves. That top pair has had some rough outings, but for the most part, the entire playoffs have shut down each of the Panthers' opponents' best players. Nikita Kucherov struggled. Braden Point struggled. David Pastrnak struggled. Brad Marchand, when he was playing, struggled. And now Zibanejad, Panarin, that these guys are, at the end of the day, they're really not scoring, and you have to credit the Panthers top pair for that in some aspects. So Ekblad had a great game. My 3 stars, third star, I am going to go Carter Verhaeghe. I thought Verhaeghe had a really, really good game. My second star is going to be Sam Reinhart, game-winning goal. Easily could be considered first star here, but I think first star, the most dominant player in this game was Sasha Barkov. I mean, I don't know that I've seen him take over a game the way he did in that third period, especially, and then going into overtime. Reinhart gets talked about for the goal. Barkov draws the penalty with a fantastic defensive play, just incredible power as a skater, pulls away from Wheeler, draws that hook. I believe he drew 2 penalties yesterday, had 2 assists, dominant defensive force again. I'm running out of things to say about him. This is the best we've ever seen Sasha Barkov play. This is Hall of Fame level hockey he's playing right now.
Mm-hmm. He also drew a penalty with a battle on the board on Ryan Lindgren that had him spun around too. So that was the first one right before.
And these penalties he's drawing are like you said, it's the holding penalty on the boards. It's pure strength. He's an absolute force of nature out there right now. He's not drawing like a high stick here and there or a trip. It's guys that are basically holding on for dear life when he has the puck because he's so powerful and strong. It's something to see right now.
Yeah, and that leads me to the part where we thought the game was won for the Panthers because, not gonna lie, when we saw overtime for a second time, I just tweeted one word from the Locked On Panthers account: nervous. That's it. That's all I tweeted, because if this were a loss, it would have been the part where you thought the game was lost when it hit 0-0 heading to overtime. But Barkov drawing that penalty on the breakaway on Blake Wheeler might have been a penalty shot. Maybe that's a regular season game, a different story, but this is the postseason. Referees were also letting things go in the last 10 minutes. Bennett was slashed, and I'm just thinking, okay. But also I was thinking playoff hockey. Let's keep that mindset there. But the moment where he drew that penalty and you're thinking, there's no way you can go out like this once again, where you're dominating play, you're tilting the ice once again, and you come out on the losing end, I was thinking things are hopefully averaging out, but then we saw that play before, the getting it down low to the goal line and right back to Reinhart in that bumper position, and boom, right past the glove of Igor Shesterkin there. So my moment where I thought the game was won, when Barkov drew that penalty on the breakaway, and scoring 13 seconds into that power play, doing it very quick work. I mean, kind of like Connor McDavid in double overtime in game 1 of the Stars Oilers series. Getting it quick. And it's like, you speak about Hall of Fame level for Barkov. It's a valid point that you made there, my friend. So your moment when you thought the game was won.
Yeah, I wanna sit here and say that I had the same level of confidence as you when the Panthers drew that penalty. If it was a penalty shot, I don't know how that would have gone. Barkov is an absolute shootout master. He's probably the best in the sport when it comes to the shootout. But Shesterkin is on another level. So if you give him one breakaway chance and against the best goalie, it's a toss up. It's 50-50 how that goes. So that would have been nerve wracking. Getting the power play, I wasn't fully confident just getting the power play, but the moment I felt like we won the game was winning the faceoff on that power play. The Rangers have been so good at disrupting the power play and getting the puck out of the zone by winning the draw. But when the Panthers have a chance to set up, they've looked so much more dangerous when they're not having to do that zone entry. And I thought Panthers winning that face-off, I felt like the Rangers were going to be they were going to be tight. They were going to be overthinking things, and that's exactly what you saw. Jacob Trouba gets way out of position trying to chase a puck up the boards, and the Panthers, that was the best they've snapped the puck around on the power play all series. So winning the faceoff was when I felt like we've got possession. We're going to have control. We're going to get to pepper Shesterkin with some shots here. I think we're going to win here. But I'd be lying if I said I thought we'd beat him on the first shot. That was a surprise for sure.
Yeah, and think about for the Rangers, both of their goals came off of a face-off win too, on the Trocheck on the power play, and then after Mikkola iced the puck when he didn't need to, and having that matchup with the fourth line too. You get a quick win. There's a battle between Stenlund and I forget who he was battling with, and that allowed Lafreniere to get that to the doorstep. Which honestly, Adam Fox is playing hurt, and he's still getting that backhand pass to Lafreniere. Just an incredible feat there. But I mean, Panthers made up for it with a win of their own on the draw, getting it past. I mean, it just goes to show that once again, face-off percentage isn't the be-all end-all. It's just what your timing of when you do get those calls, not those calls, those draws, and when you win them too. So that's another thing for them when it comes to getting that, and big win for the Panthers. And also, I mean, once again, doing it without Sam Bennett taking them too. So it's for the Panthers, it's just timing for everything for them. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss where we are as far as the series, because Panthers have had the ice tilted. It's tied at 2, but easily could have gone either way. So we're going to discuss more of that in segment number 3 here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Segment number 3 here on this Wednesday, May 29th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday. Here with Jacob Winans to break down this 3-2 overtime win for the Florida Panthers over the New York Rangers in Game 4. Now the series is tied up at 2 apiece with Game 5 Thursday night from the world's most famous arena in Madison Square Garden. So Jacob, the Florida Panthers did it once again, where after Lafreniere scored, not only did they not allow the Rangers to get a shot on goal, but a shot attempt too. And funny enough, of all people to get that, it was Matt Rempe going up the ice and getting that on Sergei Bobrovsky when it was their one shot on goal after that stretch. But the Panthers getting into the inner slot area too. That's the thing, that the Panthers were getting more and more there when it came to taking away the eyes of Igor Shesterkin, which, funny enough, the host of Locked On Lightning, Adam Danker, texted me right before the first goal saying, Igor's out of position. He's scrambling a little bit around his net. The Panthers are bound to break through too. So that's another thing for the Panthers when it comes to just, once again, not only taking the eyes, but having them under duress too. So really, it's not that they didn't in game 3. We're not going to, Game 4 is more of what we're going to see in the series, these 2-1, 3-2, 1-0 type of games. But the Panthers too, 65-0-4 when leading after 2 periods. Yeah, the Rangers tied it up, but still, not that record just speaks for itself of how the Panthers are so battle tested in these type of games, that even going back to New York in for Game 5, I mean, man. And there's also another part of me where we joked about Rod Brindamore last year about the Panthers didn't get the Hurricanes didn't get swept. But when you think about these close games on the Panthers side of things, where they were coming out on the losing end in those 2 overtime games, anything could have happened. This could have been a 3-1 series lead for the Rangers. This could have been 3-1 in the Panthers. This could have been multiple different results but look at where the Panthers are, 2-2 going into this off day. And my goodness, where are you at when you look at all these different factors? Because the Panthers have over 100, they have 100 more shot attempts at 5-on-5 than the New York Rangers for the series too. So where are you at emotionally when you look at this?
Well, nervous doesn't even begin to cover it, because yesterday's game was as nerve-wracking as it can possibly be. But like you said, it's crazy because if you ask both fan bases, the Rangers could probably give you multiple reasons why they could be up 3-1, or they could even argue that they could have swept this series. Rangers got some chances in game 1. Could have taken that one. They win game 2 and 3, and then game 4 goes to overtime. If they get the first power play in overtime, maybe the Panthers get swept. And then the Panthers on the flip side, the Panthers won game 1, dominated most of game 2, completely dominated game 3, and dominated game 4 yesterday and get the overtime win. Panthers fans could easily argue that this should be 3-1 Florida or a Florida sweep. So I tend to find that when the margins of error are that thin and either team could make a case for why they could have swept or could have been swept, it's pretty, justice is kind of served, and it's the way it's supposed to be when it's tied. Two teams that have been so evenly matched could have had a number of chances to end this thing. But it's 2-2. And I feel like that's where it's supposed to be. The way the two teams have played. You've got one goalie playing at a superhuman level right now, and then you've got one team that's just completely tilting the ice in their favor, dominating possession time. It's like the old saying, an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. It's the contrast here. It's crazy. The styles are clashing, and it's fun to watch. As a hockey fan, it is really fun to watch because you really don't know how these games are going to go. But at 2-2, best of 3 now, with 2 of those 3 at Madison Square Garden. That's intimidating for most teams. That's intimidating as a road environment, but I really don't think the Panthers care. And if anything, I think the Panthers might enjoy that more. They're led by a guy in Matthew Tkachuk who loves the spotlight. He loves to shine in big moments. There's no bigger moment than a Eastern Conference final at Madison Square Garden with a chance to send your team to the Stanley Cup. It's great theater. It's great storylines. And it should be great hockey. I'm super excited. I won't lie to you and say I'm not nervous, but I'm very, very excited. The Panthers have been in this type of situation before. This should be really fun. And I think as Panther fans, we're really confident in the Panthers road game. They play a really simple, really high octane and really, really difficult to deal with road game. And I think that's going to wear on the Rangers as we finish this series up.
Yeah, and the Rangers with 28 comeback wins in the regular season and 6 of them in the postseason, you're taking a little bit of a sigh of relief when you see the Panthers going on the winning end. And even I posted a video on both the Instagram and the Twitter, just me of a breathe in, a breathe out type of video too. It just so it's about like a calming of the nerves. But even Carter Verhaeghe spoke about it, how we knew that if they played their style of game, that the nervous that you just go out there and play for them. So it's more, I feel like it's more of a fan thing than it is players. But also Peter Laviolette on the other side of things, he didn't have an explanation. He's at a loss for words for the Rangers just being so pinned and not being able to get it out of their end. I know Adam Fox is getting hurt. Ryan Lindgren is a warrior out there, taking all those hits and going to down the tunnel and then going back. But also, the Panthers have exposed the Keandre Millers, the Jacob Trubas too in this series too. So that's another thing about the Panthers and just getting on their forecheck and getting them continuously under duress too. So part of me is like, do the Panthers really have the Rangers where they want them in a way? Because you said it, and I believe you, and I'm in agreement with you. Panthers are very comfortable in their road game. The outside of the initial draws, you don't have last change going into there, but you can still do it in the middle of play based on how you get the pucks in deep too, for them. So it's a really good feeling for the Panthers just going out of this game, and just because once again could have gone either way.
Yeah, definitely. And the way it's played out, it's interesting because when you kind of expect after the first 4 games, when it's 2 evenly matched teams, either each team will take their 2 home games, and this is where you end up. But the 1-1 split, home and away for both teams, it's kind of interesting. That to me points to an even more evenly matched series where neither team's really reliant on the home ice advantage. And that gives me a little more confidence in the Panthers to win at MSG, because I don't think either team really cares where the game's played. They'd play this game on the parking lot, and it would be the same type of hockey. The venue to me doesn't really matter. The crowd doesn't really matter. It's just noise, and I think these are 2 veteran teams that are fine playing with the noise, whether it's for them or against them. This is some awesome hockey. If I wasn't a Panthers fan and I was just a hockey fan, this would be an absolute dream of a series to watch. This is as good as it gets. But as Panthers fans, this is it's taking years off our life right now, because it's a high stress, nerve wracking, and it feels like a series waiting for a hero. It really does. It feels like a series waiting for someone to be the hero. So far for the Rangers, it's been Shesterkin, but if the Panthers can break him and sort of get the dam to burst there, they're doing everything right in their game right now to take full control and dominate this series. The one thing is Shesterkin, and if the Panthers can find a hero, this series is waiting for one. And I feel like it's Matthew Tkachuk's time to enter center stage. This is where he does his best work.
Yeah, and the Florida Panthers now, after losing 2 straight overtime wins prior to that, 11, it was hard for me to believe that they would just go down 3 in a row after, and just losing track of how they play their game in the extra frame, and just continuing to just stick with it for them. And also, one more stat before we go. Home teams are 34-32 in the postseason with a -9 goal differential, but also the Panthers, though, for them, third period goal differential for them in the regular season was 36, and in the postseason, +12. So very impressive of how the Florida Panthers are still able to get wins in late game situations and these clutch moments too. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Another win for the Florida Panthers. This game is tied up at 2, and man, we got a thrilling end to the series, hopefully coming up in these next few days here. But let everybody know where they can follow you online, my friend.
Yep, you can follow me on X at Jacob Winans 8. And yeah, these next couple of games should be good. I'll be sweating it out with all of you. So let's try to enjoy it. But yeah, this is great. This is great hockey.
Also, the Panthers did not get a win on your birthday on Sunday, but hopefully they gave you a great late birthday present. So hopefully it was a good present for you. So I will see you next time, my friend.
Can't wait. And thank you for the birthday message, and all the Panthers fans who reached out. Genuinely do appreciate it. Love interacting with you guys and sharing this fan base. So much appreciation. Thank you, guys.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.